Sitting here with Bruce from Scientific Waterproofing Solutions today, and we're just going to have a chat about our waterproofing that we use, which is from Drizoro, Maxial Flex. And we've got Bruce here today, and we're just going to dive deep into what we're doing, why we're doing it, a little bit of information about the product itself, and information about the warranties and the steps that we take to get this job to where it is, and also in other jobs that these products are beneficial for. So it's not just obviously this application. There are many other projects that their products can be used on, and we're going to dive deeper into that. But I'll hand it over to Bruce to give us a little bit of information about himself and what Drizoro are about.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. And first of all, thank you for the opportunity.
No worries.
And today's an ideal day, lots of rain.
Yep.
So that's good for Drizoro. We
Yep.
love our products. Our products can only go on a wet surface. If it's dry, we have to wet it. So that's the first advantage. And also these products are all designed to handle what we call positive and negative hydrostatic pressure. So what that really means is in the case of a retaining wall, typically guys would waterproof on the backfill side of the retaining wall, which is what we refer to as positive waterproofing. But our products can also waterproof on the negative side, on the outside. So you might have a situation like we've got here today where we can't get access to the positive side, to the backfill side. So we have to do it from the front side. Ideal. So wet weather, negative hydrostatic pressure, great opportunity for Drizoro. But yeah, just to answer your question. So Drizoro is actually a family business based in Madrid, in Spain, and they've been running the business for about 50 years. We've had the opportunity to be the franchisees or the purveyors of Drizoro products in and around Oceania for about 44 years now. And it's been a great opportunity. Our business model relies on resellers. So typically people can buy from us directly, but the product is available within Australia nationally through various waterproofing shops or businesses, a number of hardware stores, the whole range of companies. And we have a good following over the years that we've built up. And what we've tried to do is, rather than just become a commodity supplier of waterproofing, we've identified situations that are difficult from a waterproofing perspective, and not necessarily where solutions are readily available. And that's what we find we do best. Is we're faced with a situation like we've got here, where it's a little bit different, and then we will come out to site. We will debate it with the owner or the builder and try and get to the right solution at the right price.
Yeah.
That's really where we are.
Yeah, because waterproofing and dealing with water is one of the biggest causes of stress for the builder, and how much damage it can actually do. So being 2 steps ahead or 3 steps ahead of water is just absolutely paramount.
Yeah.
And it's not only using the right products, it's also applying it in the right way with the various trades and the various steps in the jobs that we got to do. So if in this instance, it's our foundation. We need to get our foundation right. We need to minimize cracks. We need to minimize movement. So that's working with the engineer, making sure that we're always following his plans and making sure we're 2 steps ahead of that, making sure we're built on solid ground, and also making sure the trades are doing everything and every step right. So that way when we apply that product, it's not actually, we have peace of mind that it's all going to be moving together and it's all right. So water is something that I know for us is we're always stressing about, and we want to make sure that we get it right, because there's nothing worse than coming back later and having to pull things off because you've got a waterproofing issue. So
yeah, and to your point, the urban legend has it that the cost of waterproofing is like less than 5% of the build, less than 3.5% of the build, but if not done properly, is usually about 75% of the problem after the build. So to your point, got to get it right the first time.
Yeah, you got to get it right, and it's not just the product as well. The product is the first line of defense. your best line of defense is navigating the water out and redirecting the water out. So in this case, we have a drainage cavity, which will capture any condensation and take it outside the job. And we've also got our ag lines and our blue metal drainage behind the wall. So the front of the job, we have a massive retaining wall, and that's positive waterproof from the outside. And then under the house, where we're lower than the water, than natural ground, where, as you know, we're tanking it from the inside with a negative waterproofing. So understanding those two different types of waterproofing and knowing where to use it is just super paramount. And I know for this job, because it's a renovation, there's just so many places for water to be able to get in. So our only option was to get a full perimeter all the way around, and that was with this product here. So I've been dealing with Bruce for a few years now, and just having that knowledge and information about what products are suitable for the job, where they can be used, how to use it, I just give Bruce a call, and he just walks me through it step by step. And it just puts my mind at ease that we're doing things right. So yeah, it's been really good.
Thank you, Nathan. And that's what we try to do is we will come on site, we will walk through the job, as I mentioned earlier. So, and we find that does two things. Firstly, it gets the right product in the right place at the right time. And to your point, it's all about the technique, it's all about the application. Because it doesn't matter whose product it is, if it's not applied properly, it's useless to mankind. So what happens, I find, is that not only do we make the right recommendation by being on site, but we also help upskill, if I could use the term. Because some guys, waterproofing is not their day job. They have a whole lot of things to do. But once they understand the basis and the need for the actions that are required, it all falls into place, and then the result is always a good one, every time.
Yeah, because you don't need to be a licensed waterproofer to do this. We actually apply the product ourselves, and you can get recommended installers as well.
So the law of the land, particularly in New South Wales, dictates that if the work is worth more than $5,000, one's obliged to get a licensed waterproofer, a licensed applicator, as they call it. If the quote is less than $5,000, then they can do it on their own. But if you have a builder's license, you are entitled to do your own waterproofing.
Yeah, and it's an easy enough product to apply. I remember when we first heard of Drizoro, we were doing a job over in Bowral, and I saw we were doing the carpentry on the job, and I saw the builder putting this stuff on the slab on the balcony where there was a basement below. And I thought to myself, like, what the hell is this? And got a bit of information, and that was my first introduction to a cementitious waterproofing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the cementitious waterproofing would be just a cement-based waterproofing, which gets absorbed into the concrete or the masonry, and just gets harder over time, becomes a part of it.
And that's the benefit. I mean, ours is not the only product in the market, but particularly in this situation where we're dealing with negative hydrostatic pressure, I would submit to you that the only product you can use is a cementitious or cement-based product. Now, the products, not only must they be able to go on a wet substrate, not only must they be cement-based, but they also need to be flexible. Because again, like most structures, most sites, there's new build and there's old build here. There's stuff that's been standing for many, many years, and there's brand new block work and things going on. So for sure, there's going to be movement, and we need to be able to account for that. And this particular product is able to handle 59% elongation, so it can stretch half its length, as it were, in terms of elongation. One of the things it does not do well is shear. It tears like paper, and particularly around what we refer to as cold joints. So a cold joint is generally where a wall meets a floor. That's typically a cold joint, and that's why we insist on max mesh, which is this guy here. So the max mesh is embedded across the intersection or the cold joint, so that if there's a shearing movement, which is a lateral movement, then it's okay, it will get past it. And then the other thing that we were talking about earlier is that this product in particular, and the Drizoro products in general, can only go on a wet surface.
Yeah.
And I don't mean a damp surface, I mean a wet. And usually
Yeah.
I say to my customers, it's got to be shiny wet or glistening wet.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is we always insist that the product's brushed on rather than rolled. So, you know, a lot of applicators will go with a roller, and that's fine. It brings speed and all of those things, but when you're dealing with negative hydrostatic pressure, you've got to brush it in, because you want to get the product into every little hairline crack, every little pinhole, because water's very cunning. It'll
Yeah.
find that pinhole.
Yeah, it certainly will.
Yeah, and the other thing that we're dealing with here today is control joints. So you would be familiar. So not only do we have cold joints, but we also have a thing called a control joint. So control joint is where we're looking at, we built it so that we can accommodate movement.
Yeah. So it's like in this case we have the block wall perimeter, and then we have over anything over 6 meters, I believe, you need a control joint. So that way we want to encourage the crack to happen there.
Correct.
So for that instance, we need to make sure that we have a product in there that can be able to move with the wall itself. And so that could be either in a slab or a wall or anything like that.
Yep.
So in that case, it's this stuff here, the Max Joint Elastic Express. And so that's just like a is it like a polyurethane or something?
So yeah, so what we've identified, what Drizoro's identified, is that typically control joints are filled with what we call a polyurethane-based mastic, and that's the stuff that comes in a sausage, typically, and there's an endless stream of those. Great products, nothing wrong with them, just not designed to operate in a wet surface, so they cannot go on a wet substrate. They cannot handle what we call negative hydrostatic pressure, as we spoke about earlier, and very often they can't be submerged, generally speaking. So what Drizoro did was they used their technology, their cement-based technology, and they created a mastic which is not polyurethane-based by any stretch of the imagination, but it is cement-based and it's got polymers in it, and it's able to handle negative hydrostatic pressure. So again, we can now fill a control joint with Max Joint Elastic, and it can handle the water outside trying to get in.
Yeah.
So that's the point of
Get off.
difference with Max Joint Elastic.
Sorry, we've got this little girl trying to steal all the limelight. Go away. Move. Go away. Come on. Go. Boo. Move. Go. Yeah. So is this stuff you mix it?
Yeah, so if you open that 2 kilogram bucket, you will discover 1 kilogram of cement-based powder and a little jerry can of milky white liquid, which is the acrylic and the latex and the polyester resin.
Yeah.
And then you mix those two together at a ratio of 1 to 1. Thoroughly wet the control joint, and then butter it in with a little spatula of some shape, a putty knife of some shape.
Cool.
And that's it.
And then do you need to use any mesh or anything over this?
You can, if you want to, you can put mesh across it, but normally control joints are left as a control joint. So that control joint needs to carry through all the way to the render usually. So you would leave it exposed. But yeah, you can. Sometimes the guys say, look, they want a membrane across the Max Joint Elastic Express.
Yeah.
No sweat, we can do that. However, we must then, to your point, put mesh across it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that I've actually looked at a job recently where it was a granny flat and it was below natural ground level, and they've had heaps of water coming through. And the first question I asked, is it positive or negative waterproofing?
Yep.
The owners knew that it was negative, and they were really confident with it. And then my next question was, okay, so did any of the following trades fix through the wall? And they go, oh, I'm not sure. And so the first thing I did was cut a hole in the plasterboard where the two intersecting frames met.
Yep.
And the first, exactly where I cut it, was a Dynabolt straight through the wall.
Lovely.
And it was all damp around that. And so I said to them, okay, so if you're negative waterproofing, let's just say you fill this cup up with water and you put that inside a bucket like that, if I waterproof the inside, nothing's going to come in. But as soon as I drill a hole in that, I'm
Absolutely.
compromising the barrier. So we have a perfect example in this case is where you need to predetermine where you're going to fix everything,
Yep.
and you need to put your fixings in the ground or in the wall. In this case, we have threaded rod, and then the threaded rod is fixed in with a chemical anchor.
Yep.
Which you guys have that
We
product
have
as
an
well.
equivalent, a cement-based equivalent.
Yeah.
So normally those chemical anchors are epoxy-based products. We have chosen to go the other way, and we have a product called Max Grip. And the reason why we employ Max Grip is because, again, it can only go on a wet substrate. So whereas epoxies generally don't do well on wet surfaces, and our product sets within 20 minutes, our cement-based.
And it has a good hold for any uplift or anything like that?
No, we've tied flagpoles to the ground with plates tied to bolts. And the other thing that our product, Max Grip, is able to do is it's waterproof in its own capacity.
Yeah.
So you don't get corrosion. So if you've got threaded rod, mild steel threaded rod, or stainless steel threaded rod, whatever it might be, or even starter bars, often we have situations where the guys haven't put the starter bars in. Now they've got to drill holes and put starter bars in.
Yeah.
That's a bit risky because that starter bar may rust because you're dealing again with negative pressure coming through the bottom of the slab. But if you've surrounded it by Max Grip, which is waterproof, does not shrink, sets in 20 minutes, I'm free.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's just so many different products to use, so many different steps, and when you're dealing with water, it's just so critical to like understand all these steps and understand the process, because if you just miss one of those steps, like for example that story that I went and looked at that granny flat, everything was done right until someone came and drilled a hole through the wall and then just compromised all the hard work. So that's a classic example of spending the money and getting it done to a certain degree and then going with a cheaper person, or maybe not having a supervisor watching everyone, and then that one trade is the person that just ruins everything. And so then what they're having to do now is rip all the drip rock off, pull the floor protection off, and then waterproof everything. And obviously that's going to be so much more expensive. So it's doing it right, doing the steps right. You know, we got, so the Maxial Flex, from my understanding, it can fill holes up to 3 millimeters.
Yes, no. So the way the product actually works is you'll see that it comes, this particular, we talk about a 35 kilogram kit in the case of Maxial Flex. What that really means is 25 kilos of powder, cement-based powder, and 10 liters of liquid, or milky white liquid as I like to call it. And then we mix at a ratio by volume, we mix 2 parts of powder to 1 volume of water, 1 volume of liquid. And we always put the liquid in first before we put the powder in so that we don't get lumps. And that creates what I'd like to refer to as a pancake batter or a breakfast porridge type consistency, which then allows, to your point, allows us to fill gaps within the substrate up to about 3 millimeters in width.
And then if you have anything bigger than that?
Well, then what we say to customers is, if you can waterproof first, put the Maxial Flex on first so that it addresses any of the gaps that it can. And after that, we ask you to consider a thing called Max Rest, which is what we refer to as our repair mortar, rest as in restoration. And again, this product is non-shrink, sets in 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the temperature of the day, must go on a wet surface. It is not a waterproof product. We do have equivalents like this that are actually waterproof in their own capacity. But Max Rest is quick, doesn't shrink, doesn't fall out. You can get through a project quite quickly because of the setting time. And also, because our products have to go on a wet surface, you don't have to wait for the stuff to dry. The minute your finger doesn't go through it, you can waterproof it again.
Yep.
And that's it. And then you come back the next morning, wet everything again with water, and give it a second and final coat.
Sweet. And so I remember you saying to me when we first did it, you bet, and I might be mistaken here, but it's you'd rather do more thin coats than less thick coats. Is that right?
So the reason why I would have said that to you, Nathan, is that the product, if it gets applied too thickly, it's a mortar, so it'll skin over, so the top will dry, but it's still curing, it's still letting water vapor pass through it. So then what happens is you get what I refer to as mud cracking or alligatoring, and it's not world ending, I mean, you just overcoat that, but that's an indication that the product was applied too thick. So that was why I made the point to you about rather, a minimum of 2 coats. You must not do less than 2 coats. And if you want to do a 3rd coat, thin coats are better if you want to build up. But it's not a render, it's a waterproofing membrane. And just to come back to that point, so if you come back 16 hours later to do the 2nd coat and you see a whole lot of little pinholes in the 1st coat, the membrane, that's great. That's a good sign, because what that's telling us is that A, enough water was put on the substrate at the time, and B, the product is keyed in. It's actually drawn into the substrate, which is what the pinholes are showing us, and that's why it's pivotal to do the 2nd coat.
Yeah.
So that's why we insist, got to do 2 coats as a minimum.
That makes sense. So then in our application, so we have a basement area which is lower than natural ground.
Yep.
We've got our slab here where there were sections of the existing slab that didn't have footings. So we've gone and cut footings into that and underpinned the slab just to give it a bit more strength and stability. We've done the same thing. We have a bathroom here where we've cut the slab out and we've underpinned and poured a thick slab, something that we can have peace of mind on.
Yep.
And then, so where we have cold joints, where the old slab meets the new slab, or the 2 slabs weren't poured at the same time, or the block work hits the rebate, what do we do in that situation?
Yeah, and as I might have mentioned earlier, the product can elongate, so it can stretch like a rubber band, but it shears like paper, it tears like paper. So where's it going to tear? Every time it'll tear on what we refer to as a cold joint. So to your point, where the new slab meets the old slab, that's by our definition is a cold joint. Where the wall meets the floor, that's a cold joint. So wherever we have cold joints, we ask that the customer embeds max mesh into the 1st coat while it's wet. So the max mesh comes in a 50-meter length, typically 200 millimeters wide. You can trim it down if you don't need a total width of 200. You can trim it down. Guys sometimes get away with 50 mils, but it's critical that you put it across that cold joint into the 1st coat while it's wet. And the reason why we ask you to embed it into the 1st coat is so that you don't get what we call dry spots. So sometimes guys think, oh well, I'll just roll out the mesh and then put the membrane on top of that. Well, that's not a good idea, because underneath the membrane there's no product. Underneath the mesh there's no product. So there's no adherence, and that's when it fails.
It just causes it to pop.
It just pops, and you can actually see it. It blisters.
Yeah.
Because again, the water is pushing up. So wherever there's no maxial flex, there's only mesh. It'll just push through.
Yeah. So it's just basically, it's almost like putting reinforcement in a slab.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely. Yeah.
You want to encase it in the product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good analogy.
Yeah.
Good
So
analogy.
doing all those steps, and then obviously people are probably going to think, all right, if you have a damp course under the slab like plastic, then the slab should be waterproof, but that's not the case, because it'll, like a sponge. Yeah, if you have your damp-proof course underneath it, there's nothing stopping water from getting into that, and then once it gets through that, it can't really escape. So then it soaks into the slab being a sponge, and then that's where you're not going to get a shitload of water inside, but you're going to get enough to cause mold and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's basically just having another layer on the top, which stops it from breaking through and forces it to go back into the earth.
Correct.
So yeah, it's providing that skin. So you guys do some of the other projects you can do, swimming pools and stuff like that,
Yeah.
right?
But just to jump back to your comment there about plastic sheeting and things under slabs. The thing to remember is that water's clever. Water doesn't just move in one plane. It doesn't move up and down, north, south. it moves left to right, it moves diagonally, it moves all ways. So, and we also know that concrete does not stick to plastic. So there's a gap, basically a gutter, where water can get through.
Yeah.
But yeah, to jump forward to what your comment is, great product for swimming pools, Maxial Flex, the Drizoro products in general.
Yeah.
Products are certified against a standard, Australian standard 4020, which means that they are drinking water safe. They also meet Australian standard 4654, which is the standard required for above ground external waterproofing. So we've used these products in swimming pools, we've used them against sea walls, we've used them in water features, koi ponds, all sorts of good things. Drinking water tanks, detention tanks, retention tanks, basements, lift pits, planter boxes, works really well in planter boxes. Again, because it becomes part of the substrate, it actually keys in to the blockwork or whatever the planter box is made of. And therefore the little fine hair roots cannot grow behind the membrane, because often what you find is sheet membranes or bitumen type membranes, over time the roots tend to grow behind those membranes, and then they literally grow the membrane off the wall, and then we're back to the situation where the water breaks through. Whereas with cementitious membranes, and Drizoro in particular, it becomes part of the substrate. So there's no way that the fine hair roots can get behind the membrane, not at all.
So there's just so many different products to use. Another one that we used was from you guys. It was for a wet wall, so a brick wall, where when you're doing a renovation, and if that wall's getting kept and it goes outside and then becomes an internal wall on the lower end, you're obviously going to flash that and put a damp-proof course in that. But then another way to seal that is with a product you guys have called Seal Tight. We don't have that here. That you basically just spray that on the bricks and it soaks in and gets stronger over time. And basically provides a layer on the outside.
And also, and I'll come back to that one. The Maxial Flex, you would have come across what is referred to as permanent formwork of late. So you would have come across brands such as Dincel, Permaform or Clearform, Ready Wall, and all of those. And we've worked out that Maxial Flex can actually adhere to those non-porous PVC substrates, both in a positive and a negative situation. So we're in a position where we can actually waterproof below grade or below ground permanent formwork. So the cold joint or the vertical joints, whatever you need, we can do that.
We actually did. That was the first job that we worked on together. And I thought going into the project that they say that we use Dincel, and they said that was waterproof, being plastic. But obviously you've got the joining strips, so that will allow a place for water to get in and then want to escape and come into the building. So obviously the PVC parts of the panels are waterproof, but the joints are not. So that's where we used the exact same product, Maxial Flex, where we meshed every single joint of the Dincel, and then we're able to achieve a tanking on the inside. So that was pretty cool. And you made comment about Seal Tight. One of the other things we've managed to work out over the time is efflorescence. So you will have come across blockwork in particular. All the blockwork's installed and it's pumped full of concrete, and then shock horror, 6 weeks later, all this white crud is coming through the blockwork. That's efflorescence. That's basically salt, things like calcium, magnesium, sodium, all of those good things, all of which are inherent in the concrete or in the blockwork. So there's no way of avoiding it. It's what it is. And when you get into a situation, particularly with blockwork or anything that's got efflorescence in it, and you have to do what we call negative tanking, which is the bit where you can only do the inside, you can only use a cement-based membrane. Doesn't matter whose, you have to use a cement-based membrane, and because they cement, they are actually by nature porous. So what happens is the salty water is lurking behind the membrane. The water evaporates through as pure H2O, leaves the salt behind. That salt builds up to the point where it'll actually blister the membrane off the wall.
So what we've got is a system whereby we use a thing called efflorescence rid, which is a detergent-based acid, and we clean the salt out of the blockwork to a depth of possibly 2 or 3 millimeters. Then, when we've satisfied ourselves that there's no more foaming every time you apply efflorescence rid, that's a reasonable indication that we've got rid of the salt to that depth. We try and get it as dry as we can, and what we mean by dry is in the range of about 15 to 20% moisture within the substrate. Once we've arrived at that point, we can then use the seal tight. So we spray the seal tight onto the blockwork, and while the seal tight is wet, that's very important, while the seal tight is wet, we brush our first coat of the same product, Max Seal Flex, onto the wet seal tight. Alrighty? Come back in the morning, 16 hours later, wet the first coat, which has hopefully got a whole lot of pinholes in it, with water this time around, and we give it our second and last coat of Max Seal Flex. When that's all said and done, what we've done is we've created, I suppose one could call it like a vapor barrier. So now the salty water arrives, the back of the seal tight cannot evaporate through the polyester, through the seal tight, therefore cannot leave salt behind, therefore cannot push the membrane off the wall.
See, that hearing that stuff, it terrifies me because I think, shit, maybe I wouldn't have thought about that. But that's why it's good to have the right people in your team that you can just give them a call, let them know the situation, in this case yourself, and say, all right, this is the job, this is what we're doing, this is what I'm thinking. Do you have anything else to add to that? And because you've seen so many different other projects, and you've seen the disasters and also like the successes.
Sure.
So instead of having to feel that pain myself, I'm able to ask you, and then you're able to sort of guide us in the right direction. And I like to use the analogy of, you don't need to go get hit by a car to know it's going to hurt, because people have already done that, and you know.
That's true.
So I'd rather not go through that pain, and I'd rather just ask the right people. So it's really good to have the right people on your team, and you know that's what building is. It's working together as a team, everyone providing their expertise and just doing every step right, and using the right products and applying them in the right way to make sure that you get a successful job, not just to hand over, but for many, many years to come. So.
Well, yeah, and that's why the least warranty we give to our products is 10 years. So our products carry a minimum 10 years warranty. There might be situations where we have to give a longer warranty. We're certainly willing to discuss that. That would entail site inspections. It would entail things like inspecting the substrate before the first application, inspecting the first application, and so we go. So the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, we're malleable. We will accommodate the builder, because the builder has demands on them that are placed on them by councils, by Defence Force, by corporations. So yeah, I mean, we can't be categoric and just say, oh well, you know, that's it, take it or leave it. Cannot. Yeah,
and like the warranties are great for peace of mind, but you know, as the builder, you don't want to just rely purely on the warranties, because you got to think about, okay, shit, if something goes wrong because I've missed a step or I've engaged the wrong contractor to do the job, I might not be able to say, let's just say you have to rip up all the floor protection, you have to rip up the plasterboard to get to the warranty, and then you find out that, oh wait, the warranty doesn't apply because you've missed a step. So having the warranty is fantastic, but as the builder, or even if you're doing owner builder and it's on your own house, you want to make sure you're engaging the right people and have that plan in place, and not just go hammer and tong as hard as you can, finish it as quickly as you can. You want to take the right amount of steps, because at the end of the day, to do it right, it's going to cost what it costs, and it is what it is. So if the only way you can do things quicker is by either having more people on the job and having the right people on the job, or skipping steps, and you don't want to be doing that.
No.
So,
and I think that circles back to the comment that we agreed upon earlier, is that the time to have the conversation and the debate is not after everything's been done. That's too late. The time is to be here at this situation where we're about to embark on the waterproofing. then we have the conversation. And to your point, I'm not a builder, so there's a whole lot of things that I wouldn't notice. But I do know a little bit about waterproofing, which is not your day job. So therefore, between the two of us, we'll get it right.
Yeah, and it's just brainstorming. Like I was saying to you before, that I like to use that a quote. It's buy once, cry once, and I use that in so many areas of my life, which is probably why I'm a bit of a tool pig and have heaps of tools, because I'd rather just spend the money and it hurts for a little bit at the start and buy the best stuff, than go and buy something not as good and then it ends up hurting me for months later and I have sleepless nights and stuff like that. So I've been there and I've done that, and it just, I've made that promise to myself that it's like, I don't really care, it's going to cost what it costs, and I'm going to get it done right, and then that's it. So it's just using those right products and stuff.
And it's, I mean, your analogy is not confined to tools. It's materials, construction materials. There's a whole range of materials that one can buy, all at different prices. But everything has a cost.
Yeah, so I think, that probably covers everything that we're doing here, and the products that Scientific Waterproofing Solutions provide, and the knowledge that they provide, and it's, I would strongly recommend giving Bruce or anyone else at Scientific Waterproofing Solutions a call, because they're definitely an asset to have on your team when you're building, because you just can't put a price on that knowledge or level of care. And so we're about to start doing all this waterproofing, and we'll keep you guys all updated. Thanks Bruce, for your time and educating everyone on this, because I know it's not a very wide known thing, negative waterproofing and cementitious waterproofing. So hopefully we provided some information to some people there that they can have a little bit more knowledge about it, and then they can start doing their own research and start giving you a call.
Nathan, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity.
Thanks, man.
Pleasure to work with you. Thank you.